Hello everyone, and welcome to my CBS YNR Full Today channel. Please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Phyllis Summers has always been one of the most unpredictable forces in Genoa City, but this time, the woman who has survived scandals, betrayals, broken relationships, corporate wars, and more than a few impossible situations may finally find herself standing at the edge of a cliff with nowhere left to turn. The latest Young and the Restless storyline sets up a dramatic fall for Phyllis, and what makes this situation so fascinating is not simply what she loses, but what happens after she realizes that almost everything she believed she could control has slipped through her fingers. For years, Phyllis has depended on confidence, intelligence, determination, and her willingness to take risks that other people would never consider. She knows how to read a room, how to identify weakness, and how to turn an opponent's mistake into an opportunity. But even Phyllis can reach a point where the usual tricks stop working. When her power begins disappearing, her allies become uncertain, and the people around her stop trusting her promises, Phyllis is forced to confront a reality she absolutely hates: she may no longer be the person holding the cards. That realization could be more painful than any business defeat because Phyllis has never measured her life only by money or possessions. She measures it by influence. She wants to matter. She wants people to recognize that she is dangerous, capable, and impossible to dismiss. So when that image begins to collapse, something inside her changes. At first, Genoa City may expect Phyllis to break down. They may expect her to retreat, apologize, or finally admit that she has pushed things too far. But anyone who truly knows Phyllis understands that surrender has never been her favorite option. Her most dangerous moments often come when everyone assumes she has already lost. That is exactly why her latest downfall could become the beginning of something much bigger. Imagine Phyllis watching the people who once stood beside her suddenly distance themselves. Imagine her realizing that every phone call she makes is met with hesitation, every proposal is questioned, and every promise she makes is viewed through the lens of her past. The humiliation would be enormous. She could look around Genoa City and realize that people who once feared crossing her are now comfortable saying no. That shift in power would be devastating. Yet underneath the disappointment, another emotion would begin growing: determination. Phyllis does not need everyone to believe in her. She only needs one opening. And if she finds that opening, she could turn a seemingly hopeless situation into the foundation for a comeback. This is where the story becomes especially intriguing because Phyllis may stop trying to recover what she lost in the conventional way. Instead of asking for forgiveness or begging former allies to return, she could decide to build an entirely new strategy. That strategy might begin quietly, almost invisibly. Phyllis could gather information, study the people who underestimated her, and start identifying exactly where the cracks are in their defenses. She has spent years learning that information can be more valuable than money. If she no longer has the resources she once enjoyed, she could compensate by becoming more patient. That would be a frightening development because a desperate Phyllis is dangerous, but a patient Phyllis may be even more dangerous. She would no longer need to react emotionally to every insult. Instead, she could begin thinking several steps ahead. And that is when Genoa City should start worrying. The shocking move teased in this storyline may not be an explosive confrontation at first. It could be something much more strategic. Phyllis might allow everyone to believe that she is finished. She could let her enemies celebrate. She could allow them to think they have finally defeated her. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, she could be preparing something that nobody sees coming. That kind of reversal fits Phyllis perfectly because she understands the value of surprise. The moment people stop watching her is the moment she has the freedom to act. There is also an emotional side to this downfall that should not be overlooked. Phyllis has made mistakes, but many of her worst decisions have come from fear of losing the people or opportunities she values most. When she feels threatened, she can become impulsive. When she believes someone is taking something from her, she can respond with overwhelming force. But losing everything could force her to ask herself a difficult question: What exactly is she fighting to protect? Is it her career? Her reputation? Her independence? Her family? Her pride? Or is she simply refusing to let someone else decide what her future looks like? That internal struggle could give this storyline a deeper emotional layer. Instead of making Phyllis nothing more than a villain plotting revenge, the story can show a woman who refuses to accept that one terrible chapter defines her entire life. Of course, the danger is that Phyllis may confuse survival with revenge. There is a major difference between rebuilding your life and destroying the people who hurt you. Unfortunately, Phyllis has never been particularly good at keeping those two ideas separate. If she decides that someone is responsible for her downfall, she could become obsessed with proving that person wrong. And once Phyllis becomes obsessed, almost nothing else matters. This could put several Genoa City residents on alert. Anyone who played a role in her downfall could suddenly become a target, even if they believe the conflict is over. They may think the damage has already been done, but Phyllis could view the situation completely differently. From her perspective, losing everything does not necessarily mean the game is over. It may simply mean that the rules have changed. One of the most interesting possibilities is that Phyllis could make a move involving the corporate world. Business has always been one of the places where her ambition and intelligence can shine, and losing a position of power could motivate her to create a new path rather than return to the old one. She could pursue a new partnership, uncover damaging information, or position herself near someone who has underestimated her. The move would not have to happen immediately. In fact, the longer Phyllis waits, the more powerful the eventual reveal could become. Genoa City loves to believe it understands Phyllis. But that assumption could be exactly what allows her to surprise everyone. There is another possibility that could make the situation even more personal. Phyllis could decide that revenge is not about destroying someone's career at all. It could be about exposing the truth. If she has evidence that another person manipulated events, betrayed an ally, or secretly benefited from her downfall, she might choose the perfect moment to reveal it. That would create a completely different kind of shock. Instead of screaming or making a public scene, Phyllis could walk into a room with a calm expression, place the evidence on the table, and quietly announce that she knows everything. The people around her would suddenly realize that the woman they thought was defeated had actually been collecting information. That kind of scene would be classic Phyllis. It would also raise a major question: who is she really targeting? There are plenty of people in Genoa City with reasons to fear a Phyllis comeback. Some may have business conflicts with her. Others may have personal history. Some may believe they are completely safe because Phyllis has bigger problems to deal with. But the truth is that Phyllis does not need to attack everyone. She only needs to identify the person whose downfall could restore her leverage. That is where her intelligence becomes important. She could choose one target and build an entire strategy around that individual. Every conversation, every meeting, and every seemingly harmless decision could become part of a larger plan. The audience might even be shown clues before the characters understand what is happening, creating suspense as viewers begin wondering what Phyllis is really planning. And if she succeeds, the reaction across Genoa City could be enormous. People who dismissed her could suddenly become nervous. Former enemies could start reconsidering their positions. Former allies might wonder whether they made a terrible mistake by abandoning her. Even those who dislike Phyllis might secretly admire the fact that she refused to stay down. That contradiction is part of what makes her such a compelling character. She can frustrate viewers one minute and make them root for her the next. Her choices may be questionable, but her refusal to give up is undeniable.
Next week on The Young and the Restless.
Still, there is a major warning sign hanging over this entire comeback. If Phyllis goes too far, she could lose even more than she already has. Revenge can feel satisfying in the moment, but the consequences can be permanent. If she manipulates the wrong person, exposes the wrong secret, or makes a move that puts someone she loves in danger, the victory could quickly become another disaster. That possibility creates the emotional tension that makes this storyline so exciting. Phyllis may believe she is finally taking control, but viewers have every reason to wonder whether her determination will ultimately save her or destroy her. Another major factor is trust. Once someone loses everything, rebuilding trust can be harder than rebuilding a bank account. Phyllis may find opportunities everywhere, but will anyone genuinely believe she has changed? Even if she tells people that she wants a fresh start, they may remember her history. They may wonder what she is hiding. They may assume every kind gesture has an ulterior motive. That could create an interesting situation where Phyllis actually needs allies but struggles to convince anyone that she can be trusted. Perhaps the biggest twist would be if the person she least expects becomes the one person willing to help her.
For good.
That could completely change the direction of her story.
Doesn't mean what I think.
Instead of relying on an old alliance, Phyllis might discover that her future depends on someone outside her usual circle. A new partnership could emerge, but it would likely come with conditions. Phyllis would have to decide whether she is willing to compromise, something she has historically struggled to do. If she refuses, she could remain isolated. If she accepts, she might gain the support necessary to rebuild her position. Either choice could create drama. And then there is the question of what happens when the people responsible for her downfall realize she is not actually finished. The moment they discover that Phyllis has been working behind the scenes, panic could spread. Someone might rush to stop her. Someone else might try to negotiate. Another person might attempt to expose her before she can expose them. Suddenly, the balance of power would shift again. That is exactly the kind of domino effect The Young and the Restless does so well. One secret leads to another, one betrayal creates another betrayal, and a personal conflict becomes a business war before anyone realizes how far things have gone. For Phyllis, this could become the defining test of whether she is capable of reinventing herself. She can continue being the woman who reacts to every threat with fire, or she can become something more calculated. She could learn from the mistakes that brought her down and use that knowledge to create a smarter future. But even if she genuinely tries to change, Genoa City may not give her the opportunity easily. People remember. Enemies remember. And Phyllis herself remembers every betrayal. That is why her comeback will never be simple. The audience could be watching a woman trying to rebuild while simultaneously fighting the reputation she created for herself. In many ways, that is more interesting than simply watching her seek revenge. The real question is whether Phyllis wants revenge because she hates her enemies, or because she desperately wants proof that they could not break her. If the answer is the second one, then her shocking move could be less about destroying someone else and more about reclaiming her identity. She may want to prove that losing everything did not mean losing herself. And that could be the biggest surprise of all. Just when Genoa City believes Phyllis has reached rock bottom, she could emerge with a completely different attitude. No begging. No apologies unless they serve a purpose. No desperate attempts to win back people who have already walked away. Instead, she could become focused, disciplined, and frighteningly calm. She could decide that her next chapter will be written on her own terms. That would make her comeback far more powerful than a simple revenge plot. It would show that Phyllis has finally understood something she has spent years avoiding. Sometimes the strongest response to losing everything is not immediately taking something from someone else. Sometimes it is rebuilding so completely that the people who wanted you gone are forced to watch you rise again. Of course, viewers should not expect Phyllis to suddenly become harmless. She is still Phyllis Summers, and if someone pushes her too far, that famous temper will almost certainly return. The difference could be that this time she knows exactly what she wants. And when Phyllis knows what she wants, Genoa City rarely stays peaceful for long. So as this storyline unfolds, the biggest mystery is not whether Phyllis will fight back. She almost certainly will. The real mystery is how far she is willing to go and whether her shocking move will become the beginning of her greatest comeback or the start of an even bigger disaster. Could Phyllis secretly be preparing a move that involves one of Genoa City's biggest power players? Could she possess information that changes the entire balance of power? Or is she planning something far more personal that nobody has even considered? Those questions are what make this storyline so compelling. One thing is certain, counting Phyllis out has never been a safe bet. She may lose money, influence, allies, opportunities, and even the confidence of the people around her, but as long as she still has the ability to think, she still has a weapon. And if she turns that weapon toward the people who believed she was finished, Genoa City could be in for another major shock. What do you think Phyllis will do next? Will she choose a calculated revenge plan, or will she surprise everyone by building a completely new life and career? And most importantly, who should be the most worried when Phyllis finally makes her move? My prediction is that Phyllis will initially make everyone believe she has accepted defeat, while quietly creating an opportunity that allows her to regain leverage. The biggest twist may come when someone who thought they had completely defeated her discovers that Phyllis has been one step ahead all along. If that happens, her current loss could become the foundation for one of the most dramatic comebacks Genoa City has seen in a long time. And knowing Phyllis, the moment everyone finally realizes what she has been doing may come far too late to stop her. Stay tuned, because if Phyllis really has nothing left to lose, her next move could be the one that changes everything. The next chapter of Phyllis Summers' story could become even more intense because once she realizes that nobody is coming to rescue her, she may finally stop waiting for someone else to give her permission to rebuild. That realization could change her entire attitude. Instead of walking around Genoa City looking defeated, Phyllis could begin moving with a quiet confidence that makes everyone uncomfortable. People may notice that she is asking fewer questions, making fewer demands, and revealing almost nothing about what she is thinking. To those who know her, that silence could be the biggest warning sign of all. Phyllis is rarely quiet when she is angry, but when she becomes completely silent, it usually means she is planning something. Her enemies may believe that she has lost her influence, yet they could fail to understand that influence does not always come from having money or a powerful position. Sometimes it comes from knowing exactly where the secrets are buried. Phyllis has spent years collecting information about the people around her, and if she decides to use that information now, she could suddenly become much more dangerous than she was when she had everything. The people celebrating her downfall may not realize that every celebration gives Phyllis another clue about who stood against her and who was secretly waiting for her to fail. That could lead to a fascinating confrontation with someone who believes Phyllis is finally powerless. Imagine Phyllis walking into a room where the other person expects an argument, only to find her completely calm. Instead of shouting, she could simply mention one piece of information that makes the other person freeze. She would not need to reveal everything. In fact, revealing too much would weaken her position. Phyllis could understand that the real power comes from making someone wonder how much she knows. One carefully chosen sentence could accomplish more than an entire angry speech. The other person might leave the conversation believing they have escaped, only to spend the entire night wondering what Phyllis has discovered. That psychological pressure could become part of her comeback. She would no longer be fighting everyone directly. She would be making people fight themselves. At the same time, Phyllis may face a painful personal reality. Even if she manages to regain some control, she cannot simply erase the damage caused by her recent choices. Relationships may remain fractured. People who once loved her could be cautious around her. Someone close to her may even tell her that the constant battles are destroying the person she used to be. That conversation could hit Phyllis harder than she expects. She has always defended herself by insisting that she is strong, but strength and isolation are not the same thing. If she has pushed away everyone who could have supported her, then winning another battle may not make her happy. It may only leave her standing alone at the end.